Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, April 14th. We are now right about at the midpoint of the month of April, and it looks like the rest of the month of April will feature some cold air outbreaks into the central and eastern part of the nation. Certainly colder than normal conditions will be quite prevalent over the next couple of weeks in the central and eastern part of the nation. One of the signals that kind of pointed to this type of pattern is the North Atlantic Oscillation. It's a teleconnection index that gives us an idea as to the pressure and temperature pattern up across the North Atlantic, and that in turn can have a big impact this time of the year, especially on the central and eastern U.S., specifically in terms of whether or not cold air outbreaks can actually make it into the central and eastern states from Canada. Whenever the NAO during the latter part of the winter season, early part of the spring, is in negative territory for a sustained period of time, watch out for colder than normal conditions in much of the central and eastern U.S. Indeed, that is the circumstance right now. The black here on this particular North Atlantic Oscillation plot here represents observed conditions. The red forecast currently in negative territory, but over the next week or so it'll go up to around neutral, and then could go anywhere, a little bit positive, a little bit negative. But for now, and for the next several days in negative territory, and you can see here it has been for the last week or so, again, often correlated with a high latitude blocking situation or higher heights than normal, higher pressure than normal form over Greenland, northeastern Canada, and that indeed happened over the last few days, and that in turn allows for cold air outbreaks to make it into the central and eastern U.S. Well, certainly one of the ways we can take a look at the temperature pattern over the next couple of weeks is to look here at the ensemble run of the GFS from last night. The 850 millibar temperature anomalies. What we're looking at are rolling 5-day periods and the mean of those particular 5-day periods. We'll go through the current days 1 through 5 all the way to the end of the month of April. And anywhere you see blue or purple, that's below normal temperature conditions, and it just sticks around right through the rest of the month of April. Again, this is the current 5-day period covering this time period, April 14th to April 19th. Days 1 to 5 basically below normal on average for that 5-day period throughout much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Let's just move forward here and watch the persistent colder than normal conditions. And as has been the case during the spring and much of the winter season, the coldest core of the air relative to normal will set up over the central plains. That's very important because certainly vegetation can be impacted by temperatures at or below freezing, and that is a big concern over certainly over the Midwest and some of the central plains and northern plains over the next couple of weeks, something that will have to be monitored on a night-by-night basis. Specifically, the fall of temperatures to below freezing in areas where growth has already begun, and that's not a good thing in the latter part of April to see below freezing temperatures, especially in the heartland where of course much of the crops exist. This is days 5 through 9, and it just remains persistently colder than normal across much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Here we're already out to days 9 to 13, covering the period April 22nd to April 27th. Let's go as far out as this particular model goes, which is days 12 to 16, all the way to the end of the month of April, April 30th. Look at this, still remaining colder than normal throughout much of the northeastern quadrant of the nation. So definitely that NAO in negative territory kind of gave us a hint as to some nasty weather conditions for the central and eastern U.S. and it looks like that is in fact going to take place over the next couple of weeks with below normal temperatures in much of the eastern half of the nation. Well, what do we have going now in the near term? Well, we have two different systems here can plainly be seen here on the 500 millibar 500 millibar vorticity field here. This is from last night's 0Z run of the operational GFS. One big upper level low situated over the Great Lakes as we begin the day here on Wednesday, and another one out across the interior western U.S. These two systems will lead to accumulating snow over the Rockies over the next few days, and accumulating snow in the interior higher elevation locations of the northeast U.S. Pretty unusual for the middle part of April to see not one but two different areas of pretty significant accumulating snow, again over the Rockies and the higher elevations of the northeast U.S. Let's move forward here. This upper level low just slowly spins around. Remember, there's a blocking pattern farther north than this, up across northeastern Canada, Greenland, that is forcing this system to move east southeast rather than north and east and away from the U.S. It's basically run into that blocking pattern in the upper part of the atmosphere. This is the forecast for this evening, and then by tomorrow morning it just slowly spins and drops to the south and east, and all this time low pressure will be intensifying right along the mid-Atlantic coastline and ultimately along the New England coastline, producing rain in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, but accumulating snow quite likely in some of those mountainous areas of upstate New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire over the next couple of days. Could even see some areas with more than half a foot of snow by the time Friday afternoon rolls around in those New England mountains. And here we go into the morning on Friday, sitting and spinning. Friday itself will be a chilly, windy day throughout the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. Not only the arrival of this deep upper level vorticity maxima, but also the arrival of some chilly air that really had its origins last week up across Alaska. There was extremely cold period with some spots in Alaska seeing some of their coldest temperatures ever for the month of April. Of course, that air mass has been modified as it has dropped south and east, but a piece of that originated up across Alaska is now moving into the central and eastern U.S. And here's that upper level feature situated out over the Rockies by the time we get to Friday morning. Again, accumulating snow for places like Denver. It's been hit hard in the early spring with accumulating snow, and again in the northeast interior higher elevation locations, the Green and White Mountains, for example, the Adirondacks, the Berkshires in Massachusetts could get some significant accumulating snow out of this particular system. Let's now go to the surface forecast maps from the operational run of the GFS 0Z run here. Starting the day with mostly cloudy skies, certainly in those areas in the Mid-Atlantic region that are not seeing overcast skies right now. They will become overcast shortly, and there can be some showers. Watch this as low pressure heads towards the Mid-Atlantic region and ultimately the coastline. An initial band of showers will cross over the I-95 corridor this afternoon into this evening. Not a heavy rain event, but occasional shower likely. D.C., Philadelphia, even New York City later this afternoon into the evening hours. And then as that upper level feature moves overhead, overnight tonight into the day on Thursday, this low pressure system will start to intensify and really ultimately becomes kind of a nor'easter. Pressure's dropping at this time. This is the forecast map for tomorrow evening. Notice the blues showing up here in those interior higher elevation locations, probably down even to the Catskill Mountains. Certainly the Adirondacks in northeastern New York, upstate New York, will get some snow out of this. Again, maybe down to the Catskills, maybe even an outside chance down to the Poconos in northeastern Pennsylvania. Let's move forward here. Again, remember, blocking pattern well to the north here prevents this system from moving away quickly, and that will prolong the misery with chilly conditions, maybe some snow for New Englanders, for example, right through the day on Friday. This is the Friday morning forecast map. Look at this, a second system producing accumulating snow not only out over the Rocky Mountains, but even the western part of the Central Plains can get some accumulating snow out of this. So here we are, the mid part of April, with two different systems, two different parts of the country causing some accumulating snow over the next few days. Let's move forward here. And here's that system as of Friday evening. Again, a slow mover because of that blocking pattern to the north, over Greenland, over northeastern Canada. And this will spill out over into the Central Plains. Finally, this system pulls away by the upcoming weekend, and it'll turn out to be a pretty decent weekend in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, for example. Some sunshine both days, Saturday and Sunday, and rather decent temperatures at probably 60 to 65 degrees for afternoon highs. And then we'll have to watch for this system moving to the north and east as we get into the early part of next week. So a colder pattern setting up, certainly colder than normal for the next couple of weeks in much of the eastern two-thirds of the nation, the central and eastern states. In the near term, we have two different systems that will produce some accumulating snow. The first, across some of those higher elevation regions of the interior northeast, places like the Adirondacks, the Berkshires, the Green and White Mountains, maybe down to the Catskills in southeastern New York, and perhaps even down in the Poconos. I'll see some snow in the northeastern part of Pennsylvania, and also some snow out across the Rockies. It's spilling out over into the western part of the Central Plains. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.